So there's a lot to consider when you're evaluating Tesla as a business and as an investment. Our guest today will help us answer the following questions. Will this positive sentiment with Elon Musk appearing excited and motivated about the company after the shareholder meeting fizzle in a few weeks? Or is this more of a long term narrative change? How much could Tesla's near term metrics change with a recovered economy, lower interest rates, and as the Mexico factory, Texas, and Berlin scale? And what are the prospects for stock catalysts coming sooner rather than later? Finally, the fun question to ask is what's the likelihood Tesla will become the biggest company ever, as Elon has predicted? So today we're joined by Lee. He runs a YouTube channel called Tesla Economist and follows Tesla very closely, and particularly the metrics and the analytics. Thank you so much and welcome, Lee.
Hi, Herbert. How you going?
Doing well, thank you. So let's get brighter. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lee. So the first question I want to ask you is, you've had a view. You were quite the bull. You had a view about your investment thesis for Tesla last year, and I know that it's been kind of changing over the months. What is your thesis today, and what is your new paradigm that you're thinking about?
Right. I mean, the old paradigm, it was the numbers, basically, all these future
Mm,
numbers that were looking so good. So we had the 4680 potential of reducing the Model Y in the new factories by about seven, maybe $10,000 because of the lower cost cell, the new manufacturing techniques compared to Fremont, and potentially a more energy dense Model Y
mhm,
cell. So you would have potentially a longer range Model Y that would cost 10-ish thousand dollars less to build, or $7,000 perhaps, which was all going to go to the bottom line. And it was huge. And there was so much demand. The waiting list was huge. The price was huge. So that was exciting. Then on top of that, there was the $7,500 tax credit coming in the US, with probably a further $3,500 of subsidies for the 4680 cell, thus saving another 10-ish thousand dollars per Model Y sold. So
mhm.
there was like a $20,000 extra margin, profit margin per Model Y in the US, coming from what was already a 30-ish% margin. So it was looking really, really exciting, and it was blowing up, and these new factories were huge, and there was going to, capacity of an extra 1.5 million cars, Model Ys a year, coming with these extra margins. And the numbers were already so good, so it looked like it was just going to be absolutely bonkers when these numbers had all kicked in. But it didn't quite happen, and the 4680 ramp was disappointing, and it was at like 2% of the rate it should have been by the end of the year, which is negligible basically. And they don't seem to be they seem to be more expensive than the 2170 so far. And obviously demand wasn't as good because of the economy, and the prices went up because of interest rates. And then they had to lower the prices, so we lost those margins there. So it all turned around, and it wasn't looking so good. And then potentially the economy could have gone into some deep recession as well, and who knows what would have happened then. So I had to really rethink what this was. Like, wow, it's not going to be this big company, that soon, and all these things that Elon is saying, that they're going to hit high volume production for 4680s last year, and or 100 gigawatt hour year run rates. They weren't coming into fruition, and not even close. And this is what I banked so much of the future of that company on that. I barely even factored in FSD or robotaxis. That was just more of a bonus to me. It's like, wow, if they hit that, then if I think Model Y sales are going to be big, then that's like winning the lottery on top of that. And then robotaxis would be like the bonus ball on top of winning the lottery as well. So that was how I valued it, and I had to rethink the entire thing, considering the margins went down so much, and even and we didn't get those extra cost savings that we were expected for the 4680. So from there, I've come to realize that it's as a stock price, as far as the stock is concerned, that it didn't matter as much as I thought, and people are willing to wait, and there is still, it's not like Tesla is still solvent, very solvent. They're still very profitable, so it's not like it's going bankrupt. So there is still the story, like you were saying earlier. Will it be the biggest company in the world? Well, those are the numbers. They still exist. The math is still there. If it comes into fruition anytime, those numbers look huge. And then obviously Robotaxi and FSD numbers are huge too. So it's like, yes, those numbers exist. It can potentially be the biggest company in the world and extremely profitable, but it just might take a lot more time than we hoped. FSD ready end of last year, not quite, or the year before that, or the year before that, but maybe this year, perhaps, who knows? So that it's happening. We're seeing it happen. It's evolving. You see those FSD beta videos. You have FSD beta?
I
Do you
do,
use it?
yes.
You do,
Oh,
right?
yeah, all the
And
time. Yeah.
are you noticing the improvements?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I started a year and a half ago, probably longer than that, and absolutely, I was blown away the first time I used it. But it's amazing now, and it's something I'm sharing now with my family, having them watch it and experiencing it now too. Yeah,
So you have noticed the progress over that year and a half significantly, then,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. So that's it. I mean, we have something tangible there that we are seeing. It is progressing, and it's amazing. Like, let's face it, it's incredible. Okay, there's interventions every now and then, but it's still an amazing thing. A car driving itself through traffic and navigating through lights and all this. It's absolutely phenomenal. And there's edge cases, but the data they have as well, and they're accumulating exponentially, continually. So yeah, it's if anyone's going to solve it, it's going to be Tesla, and the
Mhm.
world is going to want self-driving cars. But it's the future, and there's no one closer than Tesla. Elon says, "Oh, you have to look at use a telescope to see who's number two," but then you factor in like those other services like Waymo and using lidar and stuff. But that's not a scalable solution. They can't just build those robot cars off the production line like they can at Tesla, and they don't cost anything near the price. So there's no one close to a proper scalable self-driving vehicle than Tesla. Not
Mhm.
even like telescope you need to see. So that if you believe in if self-driving is the future, then Tesla is the company for that. And the same goes for these robots as well. I mean, no one else is able to create a scalable robot at these costs with with a battery that will last most of the day, with materials that are in abundant supply, that actually affordable, that you can scale, and he's talking like billions of them a year. So like, again, another big number. So, and then there's also just EVs in general, right? I mean, is the EV movement a thing? Are EVs the future? And if that is, then again, Tesla is so much further ahead. I mean, look at Ford, an established car company that's been manufacturing cars for over a century and knows so much about it. Yet they can't, they're losing what, $30,000 per
Mhm.
electric vehicle they sell, losing, that's the difference. Whereas Tesla are making, well, probably 10,000 now, but still there's a big discrepancy there between the two. And that's Tesla's old manufacturing techniques. I mean, their original manufacturing techniques. We haven't seen any of their new manufacturing techniques come into fruition yet. I mean, okay, we see them now in Texas with front and rear castings and some 4680 structural packs, but it's not in high volume scale. So we aren't seeing the benefits there of the cost saving. Most of it is still coming from Shanghai, which is the very original manufacturing techniques with rear castings. So this new Gen 3 manufacturing with the unboxed parallel production line is where we are now. And this is how we should view Tesla, not of what they've done in the past. So you can look at the financials
Mhm.
now and it's like, okay, well, it's still a bit profitable. It's reasonably
Yeah.
profitable, still doing okay, a hell of a lot better than the competitors. But it's about where they are now, or where they will be at least soon when this Mexican factory starts. And that new manufacturing technique that Elon says is allegedly half the cost of a Model 3. That's where Tesla should be viewed, and the financials that produces, the future financials that we get to see from there. And if we're producing cars, EVs for under $20,000, then we can scale that, and that is how EVs can be the future, because they have to be affordable to be the future, which I think is the issue holding them back. They aren't affordable yet, and like, well, Ford are selling their vehicles at $40,000 loss. If they needed to break even, they'd have to cost that much more, and with a profit, and that's not affordable. That's not scalable. People would just buy internal combustion instead. So if people want to say, "Oh, EVs are the future," electric's better and everything, it's like, yeah, it is, but only if people can buy them. Otherwise, it's moot, really. So this parallel production technique is what we need to see affordability for the masses. So yeah, I'm very excited about Mexico, and also they haven't relied on the 4680 cell for this project,
Mhm.
which obviously was the mistake with Berlin and Texas, relying on those cells, which is what is the holdup, because they don't have the cell
Mhm.
supply to ramp up. So you might they now the Cybertruck will come, and it also depends on 4680. But Elon set the bar pretty low for scaling that car, for ramping that car,
Mhm.
and by the time it actually gets to any high decent quantity, Panasonic's 4680 should be in production by then, and they're using established techniques that should be fine and should be higher energy density by about mid 2024. So if when the Cybertruck starts ramping, there should be ample cell supply from Panasonic at least. So even if
Yeah.
Tesla is still struggling with their 4680, then Panasonic should come in to save the day. But yeah, I'm quite excited to see how hopefully things go much better with this with Mexico factory than the other factories, and they've learned so much, and they have this cost down, and we see these new cars, whatever they're going to be, like some compact version supposedly or whatever it is. But I think a lot of this new vehicle will be designed. Firstly, it's designed around manufacturing, obviously, for these new manufacturing techniques. So it might look a little funny again, like the Cybertruck. We don't know. But obviously it will still look cool and people will love it, and there's going to be so much thought and engineering involved in it, it's just going to blow our minds. But then secondly, design around robotaxi. I think if it's smaller, it's going to be lighter, and therefore it can stop quicker, for example. It'll brake faster, which means it wouldn't need to be as sensitive to, say, if a pedestrian's on the road and they see that and they're worried it's going to run in front of them. Well, it wouldn't need to worry so much because it could brake that much faster. So it wouldn't
Mhm.
have to be as sensitive or concerned in that sense, and it could have higher definition cameras, obviously hardware for a smaller car, so it can get through spaces easier and less worry about hitting things. So it should be more ideal for robotaxi, and most robotaxis are going to be single passenger use anyway, so they don't need a big car for that matter. So yeah, there's lots of things, and all
Yeah.
these new things that are coming. They just like seeing is believing. I mean, when I say believing, like we want to believe that Tesla's going to be the biggest company in the world, and it's going to be bigger than Apple and Aramco combined, and all this. But there are times when all of us, bulls, and no matter how bullish you are, there are times when we believe it more than other times. And when we see Tesla's actions and we see them doing things like new factories, our belief increases with that as well. It's like, oh my god, it's going to happen. Oh my god, and then that means if they're that good at that, then they're going to probably solve FSD, and it's all going to come in, and then the stock price starts moving, and then everyone else starts believing that much more, and then people get FOMO. It's like, oh my god, I can't miss out on this. I've got to invest too, and then the stock price goes up, and because the story is more believed, it has more belief behind it, and then it's like, oh, hang on. It actually takes a really long time to make these factories and make these cars and ramp up and stuff. And then, the belief starts to dwindle a little bit and the stock price drops back a bit. And then something else happens, like Tesla might release a new version of the robot, and it's like, oh my god, they're
Mhm.
going to pull this off now as well, and everything else is going to come through, and then more belief comes through, and then the stock price goes up. It's more about the belief of it becoming this incredible company, rather than what was the quarterly results of last quarter, or how much profit they make, what's their margin now. It's like, well, who cares? Like, what's the margin of these new Mexican vehicles is what is important, not the margin of these really old manufacturing techniques from 2017 that they're pulling off from the Model 3 when that came through. So
Mhm.
that's kind of how I'm looking at it now.
Yeah.
But this story, it's so you go to the casino, for example, and you put your money on red at the roulette wheel, and it's black, you lose it, it's gone, that money's gone, and the story's over, you've lost. But Tesla, you put your money in Tesla, and what happens tomorrow? Oh, the stock goes up or down, but you're still in, you haven't lost your money, and this story continues and rides for years, decades, however long. So it's not over. That story is going to be continually reinforced at various times when things happen and people get more excited, and then the stock will be the measurement of how much people believe in the story.
Yeah. No, I love that. So you're an absolute bull. You just went through a litany of amazing things that Tesla's doing, just like many of us bulls have been doing. And then what you're saying is that, this is it's the age-old debate between people who are so focused on the margins and the earnings, and then doing a PE ratio to that to try to calculate what the fair stock price is, versus the others who are looking at how strong this company is, how strong the products are, what is their potential future. And then there's that disconnect, right, between the price of the stock and what we think its value is. One of the things that I'm being very, pushing back on is whenever somebody says, and I just heard it on a space yesterday, that 50 PE ratio is fair, maybe overvalued to Tesla, because don't you know what the earnings are going to be next year, and we can all kind of capture that. And if your your time frame was that you bought it at the high, and you're definitely careful, and you want it to be the stock to be higher where it was, then yeah, you're concerned. But if you just listen to everything you just said, right, these things will come at some point. It will turn into an earnings machine. And so what I've been saying recently is that I think that's what you're saying too. You see Tesla as an innovation machine, and we see it as an execution machine. And right now, it's not an earnings machine. But that's only because of the COVID economies, the supply chain, the inflation, prices went up. Now margins have been compressed because of the economy and the macro. And so now we're not seeing the margins what we were expecting. And then you explained that the 4680 delay was an absolute delay. These things do happen. But what you also said was that these things, these projects, these factories, they are going to happen. 4680 will happen. FSD will happen at some point. It's just like when we try to put a time frame to it and expect the stock to rise at some point. But if you just let go of that and just say, "Hey, this company is doing very, very well," what do you think about what happened in the shareholder meeting? It seemed to be that in the last 6 months, last year, the sentiment for Tesla has just completely fallen, and then it kind of crashed in October to December, and then it's even just kind of stabilizing, but even like fell all the way to $100, went back up a little bit, but then stayed strong. And then something happened in the shareholder meeting 2 weeks ago, a sentiment change. Do you think that sentiment change is just, well, it's just a temporary thing? People got excited, or do you think there was something there that could actually set a base and make it grow again?
Yeah, I mean, sentiment is the right word you're using. I couldn't agree more. So at the end of last year, it was getting dark. We didn't feel like Elon was around Tesla so
Mhm.
much. He had Twitter focus, and we felt like he was almost neglecting Tesla, and maybe there was a reason for that, and it was concerning. But seeing him at the shareholder meeting, he had more energy. It felt like he
Mhm.
felt like, and you felt like, well, I personally felt that he really cared about Tesla again and was excited and motivated. Maybe there's been some breakthrough that he'd had in Tesla that he was struggling with, and they got through that. And hasn't told us or something, but he's really excited about it now. Just for an example, maybe not, but
Mhm.
there's it just. I mean, no one knows the success of Tesla better than Elon, and seeing it come through him in his body language, in his voice, and everything. To me, that was the biggest thing on the shareholder meeting. And I think a lot of other people felt that as well. And it was like one of the only meetings ever that the stock price ever went up afterwards, which is quite rare. Usually there's always that run up, and then afterwards there's the dip, and then people work out what's actually happened, and then it runs back up a little bit again. So yeah, I think that was the main takeaway for me on that. But I also think that overall, most investors are happy that Tesla are going to start advertising too.
Mhm.
So yeah, and my theory on the advertising is it's probably
Mhm.
going to do more for the stock price than it will the earnings. So that would
Well, but
imply that the P ratio would basically go higher. In other words, because of the
yeah.
advertising, because I think more people are going to see Tesla like
Mhm.
on wherever they advertise. It's like, wow. And it's like, this is a big company because they're advertising now. And like, put it this way, if like, I know some people who they trade Tesla in and out all the time, and if I was out of Tesla at the time when they started advertising and started seeing all this, I would have a ton of FOMO basically. So and obviously these ads are going to be cool, but not only that, so far, I mean, how many people are we seeing on Twitter sharing their own version of Tesla ads? They're making them and sharing them
Mhm.
already, and Tesla haven't paid a cent in any possible way. Yet all these people are already making the ads and getting
Yeah.
millions of views. Like, how crazy is that?
What you just said there is very cool because it's the first time I heard it, which actually makes sense. A lot of people invested in Tesla when they first saw the Model 3 and start buying the Model 3, and then they realized, oh my God, I need to invest in this company. And I think that there's more advertising will help with sales, absolutely, but it could actually help with the stock just because people will be much more aware of the product and feel and get with it. I've been saying though that they purposely did not advertise until now because they wanted to wait until they did the price cuts. It's not like advertising in lieu of price cuts. It was price cuts to get to get to price parity with the ICE vehicles. In fact, even it's got to be lower than that. They would have done price cuts regardless if they were going to advertise, and they started advertising a year ago. Do you think that that's true, or do you think that they really did decide that lowering the prices was what they needed to do in order to hit the demand, and that he just did not believe in advertising at all?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't really lowered the prices in a sense that much. It's more that they raised the prices when the demand was
Yeah,
so high, and
good.
the prices have just come down to similar levels than they were before. Really,
Yes,
if you look at it.
exactly.
So that's how I see it, really.
Hmm.
And the advertising, to be honest, if I was Tesla, I'd probably wait until there's the Model 3 Highland refresh to start advertising.
Hmm. Hmm.
Makes sense with a new model coming out, which and you've probably seen the leaked photos of what it's going to look like,
Hmm.
and it's just a facelift, different lights, and some new hardware probably, and but it will still look cool, and it will still be like, wow, it's the new Model 3, and hopefully demand will increase as a result. I think the main objective of that facelift of the update is really a cost saving technique, I think.
Hmm.
So where like when Teslas were kind of luxury cars, and they've got luxury items in them, so we're probably trying to, and they've got way more techniques of they could save money as well. So I think they're going to, and now that the price is down, they can remove some of these costs and try and save some money and get back some of that margin. So I think that's possibly. I mean, people are speculating on what level this update is going to be. Some people think it's going to be even like the unboxed parallel manufacturing line, which I don't think at all. I don't even think
No.
it's going to use the castings yet. Some people think it might use the castings on Model 3 finally, but
Hmm.
I'm not even sure it'll go to that level. I think it's just going to be a tidy update. It's probably similar to the Model S and X facelifts we saw, along that lines.
Well,
But hopefully
it's
not.
yeah. My understanding is there's rumors in China that it's going to be the rear casting, not the front casting. But there should
Mm,
be cost savings, right? Because they obviously have huge cost savings with the Model Y. They need to do that with Model 3, and so that's why they're
yeah.
doing this. What's the likelihood that this Model 3 could be priced at $35,000 and therefore just boost the sales while we're waiting for the compact car? Or do you think that they're going to keep the same price but higher margins? Where do you think this falls
Yeah.
in the segmentation?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're not increasing Model 3 production or supply, so it's pretty much at its price point now, I'd say, where supply meets demand, the market clearing price, more or less. I think, well, we're seeing this, we've already seen on the website, there's the new long range coming out, which
Right.
has, I think it was 33 fewer miles than the old long range. So that's a smaller battery, obviously, so it costs less. But now the rumors are, what is the battery? Is it LFP or is it 2170, or is it even CATL's new cells that they've been working on? And they have this new factory that is literally pretty much next door to Giga Shanghai. So CATL have just built this 80 gigawatt hour a year capacity factory right next door
Mm-hmm.
to Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, common sense might dictate that some of those cells are going to be used at that factory. So that will be an interesting see what happens there. My speculation for theories is that they will have a better cell for vehicles, and they will use those cells in the new Highland, possibly a structural battery pack, because CATL do make structural battery packs. They use the cooling ribbons as the structure, not the actual cell, like Blade, BYD's Blade, and Tesla's 4680. It's the cooling ribbons, but it's still a structural battery pack, which means you can have front and rear castings as well and work like that. So there may be castings in this new Model 3, but I'm not sure. So if that was the case, and they were using this
Mm-hmm.
new CATL battery, it is more energy dense, so they would be smaller and lighter and probably cost saving as well. But then all these LFP cells that they have, the old ones, well, what are they going to do with those? Well, they've got these megapack factories to use for those now. So that is it's a very tidy way of it all working out, in my opinion. And the new Shanghai megapack factory as well will be able to cater for that. And like I said, this new CATL factory is 80 gigawatt hours. The Lathrop, California megapack factory is 40 gigawatt hours. The new Shanghai factory is 40 gigawatt hours for the megapacks there. 40 plus 40 is 80. 80 80 megapack factory and 80 CATL factory. I mean, it's a coincidence, but maybe I'm just trying to, I don't know, finding patterns where they aren't. But it's just what I would be doing if I was in their position anyway. It looks tidy, um, you'd use the better cell, the new advanced cell in the car, and the older one in the energy
Megapacks.
storage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because you
So,
don't need any density.
where do you stand on the megapacks and the energy conversation? He's clarified that it's between 20-30% gross margins. I don't think they've added in the operating expense or operating margin that can happen because of service and long-term maintenance. But you've been following the Lathrop factory scaling. Are you pretty bullish? Do you think that is like, the analysts are thinking $2 billion of profit won't happen until 2025, but some of the Tesla analysts like us have been thinking it might actually happen this year, the end of this year. Where do you land on that?
Yeah, some of them are very, very bullish on the energy, but it just depends how quickly they scale this up. And it's obviously, it sounds like it's a lot easier to scale up the Megapack factory than ramp up a car factory. So if they have these abundance of LFP cells, then it might happen very quickly, depending on how quickly CATL ramp up their manufacturing for their cells. So I mean, it could happen end of this year. That is possible. That there is the production capacity available. So yeah, but I'm probably more in the 20 to 25% gross margin on these sales though.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the CATL and Tesla are supposedly partnering in Texas and building a 100 gigawatt hour a year LFP factory there. Now they'll also get $35 off per kilowatt hour from the subsidy if that's the case. So that would become more profitable, but they'll probably be used for the Texas vehicles. I would say that factory, because that if we're looking at 1 or 2 million vehicles a year from Mexico. Sorry, if we're looking at 1 or 2 million vehicles a year from Mexico, then that's a lot of cells we need. Probably in the vicinity of about 100 gigawatt hours a year, which is exactly how much the capacity from Texas is. They're saying if they build this CATL factory, so that I think is where the sales will come from for Mexico, because it's a big factory. It's going to need a lot of cells somewhere. So that's my theory in regards to those cells. Probably going to be the latest technology that CATL have with their latest batteries there, and they've even said on the Investor Day that Mexico will be able to use LFP. It's not constrained to 4680.
So regardless if they hit the $2 billion profit for Megapacks this year, the fact that they have announced that they're going to report on the metrics for Tesla Energy in their quarterly reports, do you not think that will actually re-rate the company to be an energy company, or not yet? It's going to be something that,
Well,
because analysts are now following it now, right?
yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be good to have diversified income for the company, and it's not just a car company. Especially
Right.
if the economic times could get worse. We could see a bigger recession or a real depression. Who knows? And then Tesla would have to lower prices further. And Elon even said that we'd sell at a loss if we have to. Sure, Tesla has $20 or so billion in cash to keep them covered, but on top of that, if they have this extra supplement of income from energy that could keep them afloat without even having to touch into their reserves, then they're also in a much better position and can just keep going through any economy, as you'd expect that the
Mhm.
megapacks would be evergreen and not so affected by cyclical movements in the economy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I mean, so you. Mhm.
so even the income though is it's I think if it's 2 billion, is it you saying 2 billion a quarter or 2 billion annually?
They'll be at the run rate of 2 billion profit by the end of this year. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I
that's
mean, that's
Bradford. Yeah.
yeah. Bradford, he's been doing a lot of research on that. He's actually he's probably one of the top people on that at the moment. And they hung out there and counted all the ones going out of the
Hmm.
factory and stuff. So that was impressive detective work. So yeah. But it's still, even $2 billion it's not that big compared to a $500 billion company. It's not going to
Hmm.
really pump the stock too much. But it's going to be a nice supplement, I think, that we'll see there, and hopefully the Shanghai one's probably even more profitable. It'll be purpose built, and everything's built cheaper in China, of course. So yeah, that it will add to the income, and relatively at the moment with income down where it is, due to these margins being compressed, it will make a difference in the financials.
Okay. So with the shareholder meeting, Elon committing that he's there, what other things were you excited about? You said the advertising, And then what about the two new products? When I heard that, I
Mm.
wasn't excited because I felt like that is the same two products that they talked about in the Investor Day that they had wrapped up in that cover, which is going to be a compact car and a van.
Mm.
And that was what I thought. But other people are saying, no, those are something different than those two. And I didn't understand. What did you understand it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I inferred it just like you. It seemed quite like, and when you say other products, are you talking about non-vehicle products, or are you
No, I
thinking?
think they are vehicle products. For just listening
Yeah,
to how he explained, I've got two
yeah,
products, and he said that they're going to be 5 million production rate by. So it sounds like that they're vehicles because I think in one statement he did say that it was a vehicle.
yeah, because
So yeah,
he said 5 million units a year being sold as
right,
well.
right.
Yeah, I mean, like we saw two products covered up on Investor
Hmm.
Day, so they're probably the two products, and I think most people have
Hmm.
inferred it to be that. Yeah, but yeah, some people are thinking, oh, that's something else. But 5 million units, if this is the compact and robotaxi or whatever, then you probably would
Should be
expect it
more
to
than
be
that.
higher than that, really.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
so a
yeah.
$25,000 electric car internationally, Tesla would probably make maybe even 10 million, or perhaps possibly,
Right.
at least in the right
Yes, I
economy.
was asking the same question. They're going, but then why is it so low? Yeah.
And
What's your
that's
answer,
with the van.
Lee?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
So, well, my answer is a question. Like, okay, so the Cybertruck and the Model Y and the Model 3 and Model S and X are probably maybe 3 million a year when they're all ramped. Then this is 5 million for these two. That's 8 million. What are the other 12 million vehicles to get to 20 million? That's what I'm wondering. What else is coming? Because that's a big difference.
Yeah, unless he said that maybe the first year or something like that he didn't give a time frame of when they're going to get to 5 million run rate. But yeah, so future models. Were you thinking that? So this is what they're going to do this in Giga Mexico and Giga Nueva Leon. They're going to do the next gen platform. Any comments on that in terms of your thinking about how fast that they're going to launch from groundbreaking, which should happen next month. 9 months is what some people think, maybe a year,
Yeah.
and then this will come out. Are you forecasting this in terms of what you're expecting to happen?
I mean, I'm just hoping that they don't run into too many issues with these new manufacturing techniques and haven't
Mm,
bitten off more than they can chew, really, like they did with the 4680s. Hopefully, they've,
mm.
they've just learned from that and they're not messing around. And I mean, it seems in theory like a pretty simple thing, and it makes so much sense. Like why have the whole car going through all the production processes when you're just working on this little bit and just this little bit, and the whole car has to go through it, send off various parts of the car, they can go get done, and then it all comes back together at the end. I mean, it seems like common sense and seems axiomatic that that's how it should be done. So I like the idea, and hopefully it's not going to create too much complication, because it doesn't seem that complicated, for lack of a better word. It seems like, okay, they know how to manufacture. They do know how to manufacture. We've seen that. So this does seem like a sensible way to do it. And the
What's
paint, the
yours?
ones that we need to be. Sorry, go on. Yeah,
Yeah, no need to paint all that, right? So you know how they made that announcement 4680, but then obviously they ran into complications because it's so sophisticated, and now that was delayed much longer than they announced it. Could something similar happen to this new unboxing process factory? Because they did say that once they get this Mexico one out, they're going to be like doing many of them as fast as they can. I think Tom Jew was quoted as saying that. So do you think that there's how likelihood is this going to just happen? Uh, Tom Jew said, I think we can get this up in 9 months.
yeah. Or
That was his
even
quote.
less. He wanted to beat Shanghai, didn't he?
Right. Or is it going to be, like the 4680 where they might run into major issues and to make a lot longer and then all that could happen? What's your
Yeah.
sense?
I mean, that's basically what I'm saying as well. Like, I hope that won't be the case this time, and that it does seem, in theory, simple enough that
Mhm.
there's no revolutionary new techniques like dry battery electrode that they're trying to invent here. They're not. It's just a different production line, and they are really good at manufacturing. So hopefully, it's perfect for them. And yeah, and Tom Hughes also said about well, someone says that they had an interview with him or spoke to him, and there might be a sister factory going up as well. and I haven't watched it yet, but the Wall Street Journal interview with Elon
Mhm.
is apparently he also said there's another factory coming at the end of this year, I believe,
Yes. Yeah, I heard that.
which is obviously what we're thinking. And then everyone's speculating it's going to be India or somewhere, but I don't think it's going to be India. If it's a
Mhm.
vehicle factory, I think like South Korea is probably what
South Korea.
most people are thinking. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is basically it. This is the product. The product is the factory, like Elon says, and Mexico is going to be Tesla's latest product compared to Texas was before. Now Mexico is, and it's all about how they can rinse and repeat that product and build more of those products around the world. Um, so that's what it's going to be about. If hopefully that factory goes well and the production works really well, and then they can build these in 9 months or whatever, and that's it. That's how they get to 20 million by the end of the decade, because they can just build these factories so quick and ramp them so quick, and the production rate per square foot is just so high. I mean, Shanghai Model Y is almost at triple volume production now, which is insane compared to anyone else. I mean, you have to give Tesla that. That is an impressive production run rate there. So hopefully we see even better from these factories, which we're supposed to. 2 million, I think, is the rumor of Mexico. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. 2 million. Yeah, but that
Okay,
that might
so
be two
yeah,
two stages of development.
before you get there. So what is your estimate for this year? Are you still thinking they'll hit the 1.8 to 2 million vehicles that they're expecting for 2023, or do you think that it's going to be much less than that? Is there a demand problem? Where do you land there?
Yeah, I think 1.8 seems like it's on target. But when I say that, a lot of people think it should be much higher. Like they're saying 2 to 2.2 million. Some people tell me, but 1.8 seems reasonable. It seems about the rate at which it's ramping up in Berlin and Texas. I don't know where other people think these extra cars are coming from. Shanghai's at capacity. Fremont's at pretty much at capacity. There's a bit of room there, but it's not going to be big numbers probably. And then the demand seems to be holding up now at these prices. Now Tesla have people aren't waiting for the prices to drop anymore, because Tesla are also raising the prices on top of that, and really messing with people, so the consumers don't know, like, oh, I don't think they want to wait anymore in case the price gets lower. It might get higher, so that stopped that fear of purchase. So yeah, the demand it's holding up. I'm actually quite happy with the demand and the deliveries,
Mhm.
given the economic climate, given everything that's happened. And like I said, the Tesla prices they aren't that low. They haven't lowered them that much if you compare them to what they were before all the COVID stuff. And remember, like you saying, oh, when the Model 3 came out, people started investing, and it's like, well, remember the announcement, like a $35,000 EV. It was supposed to be $35,000, and it's still not 35,000, or at least not without any subsidies and credits and stuff. So it's they're still they aren't that low. That I think it's been over exaggerated, especially since when the Model Y got up to like $68,000, and that was high, and then it's dropped all the way from there. But I don't think many people were ordering it when it was 68,000. It was all the backlog and all those profits when it was like 54,000 still. So yeah, that's
Yeah, that's why I've been saying that. Listen, it's pretty obvious to me what the goals are for Tesla. Number one, their goal is to have Model Y the number one vehicles sold per year, and that's going to happen by the end of this year. So lowering the price of the Model Y, they're going to do that to get that designation. Depending on just what they need to do to make as many as they can make, and sell everything that they make. And so if I need to lower the price, I'll need to lower the price. I do think that the Model 3 Highland could actually be the mythical $35,000 car. I think they're going to come out with it, and they're going to say it's a $35,000 car because they're going to, have a new manufacturing of it to take advantage of the price cuts. And I think that the Model Y is in a segment. The Model 3 was too close to it because they lowered the price of Model Y. They need to lower the price of Model 3 to separate the two. Model 3 will take off. And then now you've got this narrative, right? You got the best selling car in the world. You've got two, which will be two models. Model 3 will go from top 10th in the world to closer to second as their goal, $35,000. And then the key thing is that once and for all, Teslas are cheaper than ICE cars without you needing to put in the IRA credit, without you needing to think about the future total cost of ownership with less service, less gas, just straight up, purchase. It's cheaper than a nice car. When they get to that point, I think you could advertise the hell out of that. Those are the things that they need to advertise. And I think they're going to do that regardless of what happens with the macro and the economy. What's your thoughts on my comment there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if it's $35,000, then yeah, I agree. That would just be crazy. That seems so affordable. And then if you add credits on top of that, it's well, to us it looks so cheap. Oh my god, why wouldn't everyone buy them? But they in my opinion, they already seem quite reasonable. They're the price of a Corolla, like cost of ownership. So it's already there, and we all believe like, oh my god, why isn't everyone buying these cars? Why are people still buying Corollas? But they
They
are still
don't know.
buying
Yeah.
Corollas. They're still
Yeah.
buying BMWs and stuff, but because they don't know, like because they haven't advertised. We're in an
Mhm.
echo chamber. We were like, oh no, Teslas are amazing. They just sell themselves, and I tell everyone, all my neighbors, and they all buy them as well, and everyone they tell their friends. It's like, yeah, okay, but now the masses need to understand, and there's too much old information that is not going away that people are talking about still, and range anxiety or whatever it is, and or Teslas are too expensive. And even Elon even said that people on the shareholders meeting, people don't understand how affordable Teslas are now. Um, so yeah, let's tell them with some advertising. It's simple, and I think all of us are we know too much about Tesla, and we're in this echo chamber, and we think everyone else knows everything. But you've talked to your friends about Teslas and had to explain to them like how amazing FSD is or anything. And I take my friends out and show them autopilot, and they can't even believe that. That's wow, I didn't know Tesla could even do that. It's like no, they don't. So you start advertising and showing like how good FSD is and how
Mm.
affordable Teslas are, how safe they are. And safety is the number one thing that people look at buying cars for a start. And Teslas are
And
the
that's actually
safest.
not true. Yeah.
Oh, it's not.
The number
I
one
thought it.
thing that a recent survey showed that the number one reason why people aren't buying electric vehicles
Mm.
is, which is different than what you're saying, is cost. And so that's
Oh,
why
right,
they
right.
need to reduce cost to be equal to ICE vehicles because they still have this mentality that Tesla is a roadster priced car.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Or even the
um,
Model S prices that were like, they were expensive.
mhm.
I remember when I got to see my first Model S's in Seattle, and I was just counting all of them there were, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of these. And then I was counting how many new BMW 7 Series there were, and there was like so many more Model S's, and I was like, wow, this is popular. So yeah,
I
yeah,
live in Seattle, and I
yeah,
and I
yeah,
sit in a
I know.
corner, and I did this about 6 months ago. I was just waiting for my wife, and I was just standing in the corner, and I started counting all the Teslas, and I started playing a game. Can I see a Tesla every 20 seconds?
Mm.
Yes, it happened.
Wow.
Of course, we
Yeah.
live in an area that you can see a lot of Teslas. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So are you noticing like they're becoming more and more popular there as well? Yeah.
Of
Just like
course, there's certain
continually.
pockets, of course, like California, Washington State.
Yeah.
It's becoming. It's obviously. It just means that it's a leading indicator, right? When you see it happen here, you know that people love the car, so it's just
Mm,
a matter of time. So yeah, I'm not one though that I did not. There's two groups of investors. There's a group that invested because they think of the company and the product and the stock, and then there's the others that bought the product and then decided to invest. I'm
mm,
not. I'm not in that camp. Like I'm buying Tesla because it's an innovation company and it happens to sell one product that is amazing. And of course, you should do that. If you think the product's amazing, you should invest in it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm just saying that I look at it kind of this higher level look at it that not just this one product, but all the products it's going to make. The
mm,
manufacturing is the product. That part is the innovation part is really the killer thing, right?
mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
And of
So
course Elon
what's
as
your
well.
thinking about the economy? So the economy, obviously, the macro hit the stock quite big time last year, um, because this is a growth company. Now that there was fear that there was going to be reduced sales, reduced margins, of course, which then showed up. But now, what are you thinking? The next 12 months, there's going to be a recession, maybe. But what happens if it turns around, right? I mean, what's going to happen to the stock if recovered economy, lowered interest rates, and then the scaling of the factories. How are you thinking about this?
Yeah. Well, my thoughts are now that like you just have no idea what can happen in the future. Like you can think, oh, all signs are pointing to an even worse
Mm,
recession or a real market crash or depression, and
mhm,
eventually people can't afford these rates and they'll have to go into mortgagee sales because they won't be able to afford their houses, and there'll be a property crash and all this. It all looks like that, and all the signals are there, but it still hasn't happened yet. So, and there's all these other variables happening right now. It's basically impossible, absolutely impossible to predict what can happen. Something could happen in the world, and suddenly there's tons more liquidity pumped into the economy, and then the stock prices all go up, and the economy recovers. But or inflation starts dwindling further. We see more disinflation, and then there's the hope of the rates coming down, and people are looking forward ahead of that. That so, I mean, it looks like there could be a crash, but a bigger crash or something. But at the same time, you just don't know. And like I've studied graphs and stuff like charts, and they just have a mind of their own. There's just no way to predict them. So that's why you just can't try and time the market in any way, and you just hold on. But yeah, I'm hoping that usually a recession will last 18 to 24 months, and perhaps we've been in one for 6 months or so already, or whatever it is, or whatever you want to call it. And Elon as well saying like another 12 months, and hopefully we're out of this, and we start the recovery period again. Rates might start lowering then. So I'm probably more on that outlook, hoping that this is probably where we are. This is the recession. It might get a little bit worse, perhaps, but maybe no major crisis, no financial crisis, nothing major that breaks in the economy. Perhaps it can sustain this for now, and then 12 months' time, we start seeing enough disinflation that we can move on and start lowering rates and get back to it. But
Mhm.
yeah, that might be a
So
little bit hopeful. Who knows?
yeah, we talked about Tesla being seen right now as a car company. Possibly by the end of this year, there's going to be some energy, but at least they'll start changing the narrative a little bit, maybe. But what about Tesla being seen as an AI company? With Elon coming out in the shareholder meeting saying, "Hey, I'm going to stay at Tesla. I'm going to make sure that it's seen as an AI and an AGI company." Um, that gave me a lot of confidence, and I felt that this is a good thing. I don't know if you saw that today, Nvidia went up by 20%
Yeah.
because
Oh, is it
they're just
20%
selling
now?
it like
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. Now
Yeah.
they're a different
Yeah.
kind of AI company. They're selling it because they're the tools that sell it to other AI companies,
Yeah.
and that's gone
Yeah.
crazy. But
Their
you
earnings
know,
would beat expectations.
yeah, that huge, big time. So, what do you think about Tesla? Is there even a chance, or just no amount of talking, no amount of until you see it with your own eyes with the bots? Maybe no one's going to think, or robotaxi, right? When that happens, but right now, everybody thinks robotaxi and bots are like decades away. Well,
Mm.
are you viewing these things?
Well, I mean, I think AI is probably going to be the next big bubble we see. It's already starting. Like Nvidia, Microsoft, they're all going to benefit from it massively, obviously. And then Elon saying that Tesla is the biggest AI company as well. So if there is more core belief in Tesla being an AI company, then Tesla's going to ride that bubble as well. And their AI isn't just like asking it questions and getting answers or doing these sorts of stuff. It's there's general application here of of robotics doing things for you. Like a car that drives itself for you and doing all that. That is a very valuable AI tool. So it's when the economy or the market starts to think like, oh my god, AI is going to be really big, and it starts to bubble, like the dot-com bubble, like even the EV bubble a couple of years ago or so, then then Tesla should be able to ride through that bubble as well, and the stock price should be rewarded as a result. And whether or not Tesla have solved FSD or not by that time, it will be all come down to, again, the belief that people have in whether they can or whether it will be solved, and how soon, whether to the level of how much Tesla also gets to ride that AI bubble.
Mhm. Okay. So, you started off this conversation with saying that you were focused on the metrics, the numbers. It looked fantastic. This still is, right? One of the best financial statements in the world with $20 billion of cash. But the earnings was compressed and because of the price cuts. And then talked about all the things that Tesla's doing correctly, all the scale, all the factories that are being scaled, all the coming cost reduction. Even like the 4680 was delayed, but it's coming. The CyberTruck is coming. The bots are coming. Are you are you are you getting very excited again because you think that these things that are coming are actually coming sooner than we think, or are you just saying, hey, you know what? I just need to stop thinking of this as so sterile and just remember the story. And at some point, the narrative and the consumer sentiment will change back to the positive, and then they'll start buying into this again, even when the numbers aren't there yet, even when the earnings haven't shown up. Or yeah, we're oh, yeah. What are you saying?
Yeah, I think I'm getting more excited that I've got my head around what is actually happening, what this company is, and how it is valued. Because I felt like my previous thoughts on it had
Mhm.
obviously they didn't manifest as how I expected, and I had a lot riding on that. And I realized, okay, everything Elon says doesn't happen anywhere near as close as you think. Uh,
Right.
yeah, so there's that. But yeah, like you said, the numbers are still there, and it's just a matter of when they can get these things done. Um, or and how much people believe that's going to happen. And so yeah, that's what I'm happy that I finally got my head around Tesla again, and that I'm excited about it, and seeing the future it can bring. Because I mean, electric cars, it's a better form of transport, but it just needs to become affordable. FSD, it's obviously a better way to drive. You don't want to drive yourself, you can just be on your phone or watch YouTube, whatever, the whole way. um, and robot labor, I mean, that's crazy too. When we start seeing some of those robots replacing humans on maybe the Fremont production line or something, then we can get really excited about that as well. And obviously, robots and AI are going to be big in the future. And there's no company, in a sense, that is better positioned for those two than Tesla.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so this is the economy. I think or the weird part is that the story has only gotten better in the last year, 2 years, and yet the sentiment has fallen so low that people are no longer confident about it. But if you stop and think about it, we are closer to FSD than we've ever been. We're closer. I mean, bot was just a brand new thing that they dropped on us a year and a half ago, and now we're seeing it. We have lithium refineries. We have several megapack factories. We have now 4, 5 gigafactories, more being announced. They're fully in scale now. The 4680 was delayed, but it's now coming out. The Cybertruck is now absolutely, guaranteed almost, or high likelihood. I'm not guaranteed because he continues to say that production is very difficult, but it's looking like everything is saying that it's going to come out this year finally after many years. And so if you if you stop and think about it, we should be super super excited right now, but we're just because we got burned last year, we're being careful. But actually, it's happening. It's
Mm,
happening, and every month that goes by, we're closer and closer to it actually truly happening, and
mm,
watching it change. So that's always been my thought. What has your thinking changed about Tesla's potential? When you just said that Elon says things that don't pan out, but I think you and I agree, and many others agree, that when he says things that are very future, he's had many years to give it a chance to play out. It does play out. It's his short term predictions that are that's always in question, but his
mm.
longer term predictions happen. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and seeing the Cybertruck actually finally come off that production line will be another some evidence that yes, it does happen. These things that Elon says do happen. It just takes
yeah,
a lot longer. But look at this truck. It's actually finally in production. And again, like that would again reinforce this belief of if they can do the Cybertruck, then they can do FSD, then they can do all these other things, because this company is amazing. Look at the engineers they have and the technology, and it won't just be like the Cybertruck isn't going to be like the make or break of the financials. It's not going to be massive relative
mhm,
to even the Model Y, but it's just seeing is believing that, and it will be a great boost for the stock and the company, and the sentiment again. Once and you start seeing them on the road and driving around, and they'll be like, "Wow, look at that truck! Wow, isn't that incredible?" And I think it's just things like events like that really to end up boosting the stock rather than seeing the financials increase a bit.
do you find that so I think we all agree that when we hear Elon say things about timeline, he's questionable. When he talks about things like the Cybertruck is going to be an amazing product, you're going to be blown away by that. Do you also think that we should be careful when he says things like that, or is this going to be such a like he said, he's promising that this is going to be so full of technology, it's going to be our best product ever? I mean, if the Cybertruck just introduces some incredible feature. Even just the fact that it will float and act like a boat, that will, make everybody's. It just reignites people's imagination of what Tesla really is, a tech company, as you mentioned at the beginning. Do you think that when he says that this is going to be the best product ever, is he just blowing smoke and we're going to be disappointed, or is he typically accurate about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope he's right about it. I mean, we haven't really heard any specifications on it lately, and everyone wants to know what's the latest specifications on it. What is these extra things that it can do, and they're not saying anything. So we have to wait for that, and then hopefully there's probably going to be obviously a Cybertruck launch event, and we'll find out finally what it can do. And that large windscreen wiper as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting, and finally find out what everyone's been waiting for, and what the price will be, what the range will be. I mean, it's you kind of expect it to have the longest range than any other pickup truck because it's Tesla and they're launching the Cybertruck. So you would hope it would have about 400 miles of range at least, really. But a lot of people
Hmm.
obviously say 420. Um, but that is going to be a lot of batteries, a lot of cells in that battery. So it'll be a big battery, but maybe they have some high density ones for that specifically. So yeah, I think it would be great for the stock price to see that finally come off the line. And he hasn't set a big bar of expectation here either. We're looking at thousands probably for this year, not anything much more than that. He's
Hmm.
he's telling us it's going to be slow in production, and hoping for volume production next year, which might be a little bit ambitious, but even if they get it up to I think around 50,000 units a year, it should hopefully be profitable. Well, maybe break even. The gross margin should be positive, I think, around that number of units, because the price is probably going to be a lot higher than most people think, especially in those unit orders. I would say it could be up close to $100,000. I think maybe. But
Okay.
who's if they're only doing 50,000 a year, then there's going to be 50,000 people a year who would pay that to have a Cybertruck.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. What's your thinking about the bots? Are you excited about that? Do you think it's way in the future, or do you think it could happen sooner than people think?
Yeah, I mean, that latest video we saw at the shareholder meeting, it looked pretty impressive. It looks like they're making progress. But yeah, bots aren't my area of expertise, but just from observation, it looks impressive. And like I said, if they can just start doing some applications on replacing some labor in the production line in Fremont or somewhere, then that's going to be the great start, really. I mean, just one human labor, like one task, uh, that's massive because obviously it can be replicated in many other industries. But you're replacing a human. Obviously, you're looking at 30, 50, $4,000 a year or something. That's huge.
Yeah. I think there's going to be things that Tesla announces that are delayed, like the 4680, the Cybertruck, certain factories. But there's going to be certain things that they announce that can be surprisingly happen sooner than you think. And for me, I think it's going to be the robots. And people say, "Well, you're just being an optimist. You're just being kind of like another Uber bull saying these things." But I think that you got to be you can't just apply something like, look what they said about robotaxi, and that's just a pipe dream, it'll never happen. But I think with bots, you know I've talked to a lot of experts, and many said that this won't happen forever. But then look what they did, and where they're at today. These are the people who said, it's not easy to create a bipedal walking robot that can balance, let alone carrying things. And now we're actually here already. So people said that that's like decades to get there, and here we are. So I think they might surprise in something, and could be the bots.
Mm.
So yeah. And then just the fun question: are you still thinking that when he says that we're going to be the largest company in the world, are you think that's a pipe dream, or is that there's a real path to get there?
Well, I mean, there is the path. You can see the numbers. If it all works out, then those numbers track basically. Um, when it happens is a different question. When it hits those, actually, when it hits those numbers is a different question. But it could be the biggest company before then. Again, it's going to be down to the belief of people
Mhm.
thinking, "Oh my gosh, it's actually going to hit this. They're going to solve FSD. Robotaxis are going to be a thing. Robots are going to be a thing. Oh my god, the numbers look enormous. It's going to be worth $10 trillion, whatever." So that's the stock price will get there probably before the numbers, if that's the case. Just on
Yeah.
the market's belief that it's going to happen, and the FOMO of investors wanting to not miss out on the opportunity of a lifetime, basically the investment of a generation.
Yeah, exactly. Good. I like the bullish Lee. Thank you so much. This was fun. I haven't spoken to you for a long time, and so it's nice to get your feedback on all these things that you're analyzing. And what I like about you is that you're very, very specific. You know your numbers. You're analytical, but now you've added in this understanding of the sentiment and the innovation, the belief of where Tesla is going to go. At the end of the day, you and I both see the company's executing. They're executing. May take longer than we think, but they're executing, and at least they're doing something, right? There's other companies.
Mm,
Some would argue that Apple, fantastic company, long time investor in them, that people feel like they're slowing their innovation. Maybe that's just their life cycle of where they're in a company. But Tesla is just one thing after another. And I guarantee that there's going to be yet a brand new product that they're going to announce that we haven't even heard about that's going to come out in 2 years, because they
yeah.
do it every 2 years. Who knew that we were going to talk about bots today? 2 years ago, we weren't even thinking that that would even be in the horizon. And here we are. So I think something's going to come. And I think I also saw a little glimmer in his eye at the interview last night with Wall Street Journal when he was
Mm,
talking about there's going to be news coming about how X.com Twitter is going to work with Tesla, and how they're just going to all work together, just like he said, the way OpenAI and Microsoft are working together. So
right.
there's going to be some news there. I think that they're going to. I think he's coming from behind though, so I'm not going to hold my breath on that one. But there's something coming. There's always
Yeah.
something coming. Put it that way.
There's
So
always some headline that comes out, and suddenly the stock jumps 10% or something that no one ever predicted, and they caught the shorts off guard. And I'm like usually hoping I've got options in play at the time or something. Yeah, it happens, and you can't predict it. It just comes out of the blue with Tesla. You never know. Like
at the
could
end of the
suddenly be,
day,
oh, Gen 3 reveal or
yeah.
something.
If you asked, and history will be the guide, who is the greatest entrepreneur ever? Elon would be one of the top five, if not the best, the biggest. And then who is the greatest company ever? And then eventually there's a path I can see for Tesla being the number one there, if not the top five. Best company in the world. So would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah, I'd say so.
Awesome. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lee. Everybody,
Great.
he's got an amazing YouTube channel called Tesla Economist. He's also on Twitter at Tesla Economist. Follow him, subscribe, and just watch a lot of his great videos, because he really does do fantastic deep dives on everything. Thank you so much, Lee. Appreciate this.
Thanks, Herbert. See ya.
Bye bye.